Hello there, welcome to another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. Things have changed, haven't they? Usually, I would say it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, and it is 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, but if you're watching this, you are watching it at 12:30 on Wednesday.
It means that I could actually win the mega multiplier tonight
Right.
and become a mega millionaire and say, sayonara, I'm not doing this anymore.
Let's see if that happens. Hey, introduce yourself.
Hey, Andy Kahn, Crime Stoppers, and since I can't actually show what the anymore, because that's part of the new deal, right? You can't show that either. Who are you?
Yeah, no freebies. Introduce yourself.
My name is April Aguirre. I am a fourth crime victim advocate.
Tell the folks that don't know about your situation, tell them how you became a crime victim advocate.
By force. We became victims of violent crime when my niece was shot in the head on our way to dinner here in Houston, Texas. At that point, we were pushed to the system and realized there was a lot of bad actors. There was a lot of things going on. A lot of people making a lot of money off of dead people. And we started attacking the criminal justice system one piece at a time. And we haven't stopped because there's still a void in our home. So it's a reminder every single day that there's still a lot of work to be done.
February 22 is when Arlene was shot and killed.
Yes.
And it took how long for someone to be charged?
They charged somebody with that very week, right? But it was a very weak charge. They charged him with aggravated assault, bodily injury. But that charge, even after the child passed away, wasn't upgraded. Eventually, that individual was no bail. We had to go and hire our own team of specialists to come and recreate the scene and reinvestigate everything. And, we had to go and do it ourselves.
You've been real vocal, and that probably played a big part in things happening.
Absolutely. A lot of people think that us getting charges of individual came easy. It was very difficult, and we had to do everything legally. Nobody could do this for us. And in the contrary, we had to work even harder because we were in the public realm and criticizing everything very vocally. So we had to force the arm of the criminal justice system to do the right thing.
Earls had a bond hearing yesterday, I believe it was.
That's right.
Monday.
That's right. So we were there yesterday, and the defense was attempting to transfer over a bond from the previous charge. However, this particular bond was granted by the Mahar family, who is no longer in business here in Houston, Texas, due to multiple reasons. Primarily, it's my belief it's because the FBI started raiding their offices, so they fled.
And how long has that been?
Since June 2022.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
The major bond company that was implicated in giving less than 10%.
Right.
When we didn't know that.
These payment plans.
Right. Generally, people assumed whatever the bond was, you had to cough up 10% of that total. We found out this particular company was cutting deals and shortcuts and basically making like a car payment.
Yeah.
We don't have to do 10%. We can go down to 5%, and we'll just give you X amount per month.
One of the disturbing thing too about the payment plan was you would see defendants that they were out on bond and they'd pick up additional aggravated robbery charges, and you figure, well, they're out robbing people to make their bond payment.
They are. And, this is a way of life for people, just like you got up this morning knowing that you were going to film Breaking Bond. These people get up and they target people.
It's what they do. It's their way of
It's
life.
their livelihood.
Well, how did you feel when it was all over yesterday with the bond situation?
It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and there's no rest for victims. Even after Earl was sent to prison, I believe that he'll probably be facing parole very soon.
Yeah.
So Earl's, before he was charged with the murder of Arlene, he was also wanted on another felony, which he remained a fugitive for quite some time period.
That's right. So it is caught on surveillance video that he pointed a gun at his stepson in broad daylight. And for a year, he was a wanted fugitive. But it gets better. When we talk about bonds, we have to consider if the person is a flight risk.
Right.
When Earls was captured, he was found in the back of a relative's home living in a tent. Now, I really don't think he was exercising his Boy Scout abilities.
Right.
He wasn't out there making s'mores. He was trying to avoid apprehension. When the police officers did a big entry into the property, he jumped the fence and was in another person's property when he was apprehended. So even though, in my opinion, that should show that he is a flight risk and was trying to avoid
He knew he was,
apprehension.
he knew he was
Absolutely.
wanted.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he turned himself in, I understand you
Yes.
guys are looking for me,
Yep.
here I am, I'm here. So that says a lot to me right
And
there.
despite that, his bond was lower, from $100,000 to $75,000.
Which these days is kind of,
Fair.
yeah,
We expected worse.
right.
You know, we're content, and we're gonna go through the motions and everything and ensure that everybody, including the defense attorneys and the judges, are within the parameters of the law.
What happened to his original bond?
His original bond is in limbo because the Mahar family is now out of business since they were raided by the FBI. They fled town, right? So now the Assurity company has that bond as debt because they did their job, which was to get the defendant out of jail. They don't have any more financial ties to the individual.
Yeah.
That is bizarre. So, in a strange way, Earl's is also in limbo.
Yeah, his
Like,
bond.
so he can't, until they figure out what to do with the bond that they posted on the other charge, you think he's gonna be able to post the bond? Or can he transfer? I don't know.
So no, the transfer is no longer going to happen. We had the Assurity company come on record and say, we will not take the financial liability because these people are business people.
Right.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so what the defense attorney gambled is that the judge would just say, okay, let's transfer it. If the Assurity company agrees, like you say they do, let's go ahead and transfer
Yeah.
it. But she lost this gamble because I believe the judge is very fair.
That's good.
So the judge, by law, by statute, and probably incorrectly so, reduced the bond to where it should be for that particular offense. Yet at the same time also said, hey, guess what? You're not gonna be able to take the bond that you
You're
were
gonna have to cough it up.
applying
Yeah.
to this new bond
Yes.
on the new charge.
Correct, so no transfers, and we fought really hard as a family and as a community to ensure that defendants that were facing violent crimes were paying a minimum of 10%, right? Which I've been educated on the fact that bail bond companies will take more than 10% if a person is high risk.
Yeah,
They
sure.
will. The
Yeah.
minimum we just wanted was 10%. We don't want these payment plans. Right, victims are financially inconvenienced. When a person dies, we weren't ready to pay for a funeral, and we're still paying for that funeral because we weren't willing to put a 9-year-old little girl in a basic box. We wanted a nice burial site. We wanted a nice coffin. And we wanted lovely flowers. We wanted it to be a beautiful ceremony, and we're still paying for that funeral.
I'm gonna read you, this is in actually, the Houston Chronicle, which I admit I actually still read, so for those that aren't aware that we have a newspaper. But this was another case of another person being charged with murder. It was a stranger, she ran over, stabbed him, I think it was a big news story. But his bond originally was $900,000, but she was also on probation at the time. And the judge, right here, Judge Chris Morton says, this defendant does not show up when and where is she supposed to. Then he said someone would have to be wealthy in order to post the initial $2 million bail, adding he believes local bail companies would be unable to back bail that high. And this is what Judge Morton said, and this is what really caught my attention. He said, I can't set bail just to keep someone in custody. It's not right to have a system for people who are wealthy to get out, while those who are not cannot. And I'm going, I can agree with that on one aspect.
But where's public
where's the
safety?
phone? Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Correct. Where's the public safety aspect coming in? If you thought this person was right.
Yeah, well, there's so many judges will say, well, I can't make bond punitive. I can't make it like I'm punishing you.
Yes.
But you have to look at how safe is everybody else if they let John out, who's already accused in a murder or two, and we're gonna let him just, okay, roam around with everybody else.
Like in Earl's case, he was a fugitive at large, and he knew he was wanted.
Yeah,
So to me, that kind of sends up red flags. That if you release him again, consider since he's done it before and wouldn't allow himself to be taken into custody, what are we setting ourselves up? It's the same thing here. This particular defendant was on probation and had violated the probation conditions numerous times. which tells me that if you're not going to comply with your rules and conditions of probation, what makes you think you're going to comply with a bond?
I've said this thousands of times probably, but this is sort of a new thing. If you go back to the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, pretty much, if you had no criminal history and you committed a murder, your bond would more than likely be $10,000, and you put $1,000 down. And everybody that's on bond, they have one condition: do not break the law.
Yes.
Right? Everybody is told that. Well, if a defendant broke the law, the judge would get him back in court and then decide, well, this doesn't look right. I told you not to do this. They might hold them without bond until they go to trial, right? Or they might let them out one time. The idea of letting somebody out more than a dozen times, you know what they're going to do. It's not a surprise, right? When you see these people that they pick up an aggravated robbery bond, then they pick up another charge and another charge and another charge. It's not a surprise.
God, you sound like somebody I know.
Who's that?
You sound like exactly. We're like switching roles right here. So yes, you are in my adage, and I'll go ahead and say it before you steal it from me, is it used to be in Harris County, one bond per customer.
Yeah.
And that's not so, right?
And now we see them reaching 5, 6, half a dozen.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting.
But you know, you, April, and I've said this, you deserve so much credit for taking on this mantle and recognizing that you cannot go back and change what happened to you and your family, but you're going to make things better for others to come along. And Arlene's legacy will last for eternity.
You know, it's either that or go crazy.
Yeah.
So you gotta find purpose, because the pits of depression are very deep, and you have to find purpose. And we feel like we're honoring her and making things better and holding people accountable. And there's almost a little bit of guilt because we were so asleep before. We saw the things that were happening. We saw it on the news. Like, oh my God, did you see this? Hey, what's for dinner? You know,
It happens to other
It
people.
was that fast
Yeah.
until you're pushed into the system.
That's human nature.
By force, and you can't get out of it. So I urge people in our community to become aware before you're forced to be aware.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever imagine yourself testifying in front of a Senate committee?
No, never. And you know, now I just cannot wait for the legislative session. There's so much to be done, because now we have rogue judges, we have rogue bail companies, and we have to implement these laws to evolve with the criminal element.
I mean, there's a movement, no doubt, where you have people that want to change the criminal justice system a lot. Basically reform it to the point where, I mean, there are judges, there are people in the criminal justice system who do not believe in prison.
No.
These people live in gated communities.
Right.
They go to court through the tunnel system. They won't even walk the same streets that we're forced to walk through. I can't take a weapon into the courthouse, so I'm vulnerable between my vehicle and the courthouse. And I'm scared.
Yeah.
And I can't defend myself, but these people are protected and they're in a bubble, and we're not.
Right.
We're forced to be with the defendants they let out, because they go right back to the low-income communities where they came out of to continue to hurt low-income people. And another point that we have to make is that wealthy people aren't committing these crimes.
No.
So when they talk about a wealth system, the wealthy are not committing these crimes.
No, they're not. And the idea that somebody is sitting down in the Harris County Jail underfoot with a bond because they stole something from Target is not true. It doesn't happen. There's nobody in jail that stole bread and milk and now they're in the Harris County
No
Jail.
offense against Target, but
No, I love Target.
make sure we're clear on that. We're not singling.
No, we're not seeing the Target out. No, we're not.
It could be a sponsor next time.
Well, you never know. But the thing too, and I think you'll agree with this, most people, if you live to be in your early 30s and you've not gone to prison or to jail, more than likely you aren't. No, it's a small segment of society that lives in the criminal element, and the law-abiding people need to be protected from the criminal element. And the only way that you are protected from the criminal element is by separating.
I'll make it, the whole point of the criminal justice system is to have order and to prevent anarchy. So if the criminal justice system system doesn't work. For the family of a 9-year-old little girl like us, why wouldn't we want to take matters into our own hands? Why wouldn't we? Right? So, of course, we're civilized people, and I'm trying to deal with the criminal element as a civilized society, but we're dealing with some people that aren't civilized and are not willing to follow the law.
Right, and they're not going to.
No,
They're not going
What
to.
kind of backlash do you get from this?
a lot. We've even gotten death threats, but you know what? I just feel like Arlene couldn't have paid a heavier price if she already went through what she went through being completely innocent little girl. I mean, we're not scared. We're really not.
There's an adage that I use, and basically you become a catalyst for change.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much what you've taken on, that mantra and mantle. And, you know, when you do what you do, as you well know, and you've seen me do this for years, when you advocate on behalf of one faction, you will generally infuriate the other.
oh, yeah,
But you know what? Even Jesus had people that didn't like him.
don't
so,
you know it? Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, you have to expect, anytime you kind of take a stand for something, you're gonna get attacked from people. There are gonna be people that are gonna criticize you. Oh, I get beat up all the time on Twitter on this freaking bus. You don't know anything about it. You're stupid. Well, maybe I am stupid, but I do know about it. I mean, we
You know
do this
what's
how
hard?
long now?
We've been doing this now for, we got what, about a 5-year sentence, no good time?
Right.
We've done about 3 years and 4 months or something. which
Easy.
is unheard of
Yes.
on TV news.
To do the same,
The same subject.
an ongoing series.
Weekly
because it keeps
base.
happening, you know.
That's right.
The thing is, Andy doesn't want to work here anymore, I assure you. But you guys keep giving him reasons to keep
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, if this was corrected or stopped, yeah,
So
I
like,
would be,
the one, like what we're gonna be doing, that's already gonna be aired by the time you watch this. I mean, that just came because I got a press release from HPD yesterday, and anytime I get a release with somebody's name on it that's charged with murder,
You
you
look
want
around.
to take and see a deeper dive into it. And boy, it was like 600 feet depth diving with this particular event.
tell them what makes
So
this
this
guy
guy,
so,
Antonio Williams, is charged with murder. He hasn't been booked in Harris County Jail yet because he has a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So
this is from just a week, last Friday, May
out in
31st,
the Heights area,
Yes.
right, which he shot and killed his ex-girlfriend.
allegedly.
Allegedly, yes, I was going to say allegedly.
Yeah, it's making sense.
Said that. And also you had another young child as well. So go back and I look and going, wow, first of all, this guy's got like 6 prior felony convictions. Been to prison several times, and I noticed that he just got like a 2-year sentence for felon in possession of a weapon and firearm. And then I take another look and I'm going, wait a second. I'm going, wow, there's a pending murder charge on him in Fort Bend County. So I go back and I look, there's a 2019 case, which he was charged with, but he wasn't charged until March of 22. Same scenario, ex-girlfriend fires shots on New Year's Eve, kills her, and also wounds a young child less than a year old as well, who miraculously survived. So he's charged with felon in possession of a weapon. He's out on bond. Then he gets picked up for the murder charge in Fort Bend County. So he's in custody in Fort Bend County. And so now he's on, then eventually they reduce his bond.
A lot, by a lot.
Boy, did they reduce the bond. I mean, you can take my hand and chop off a few fingers and still have a few fingers. That's how far down, the bond went. So now he's on bond for murder. He's on bond for felon in possession of a weapon. But the 184th District Court Judge, Catherine Thomas, does the right thing in Harris County, revokes his bond because he's got the murder charge in Fort Bend County. So now he's waiting here. So he finally takes a plea deal.
2 years, he's sentenced to 2 years.
2 years, then he gets back out. He gets out, he completes his sentence.
So keep in mind, this guy was on bond for murder while serving a prison sentence. Have you ever seen that?
No, I'm not. I'm going, this makes no sense. You're doing time in prison and you're still on bond for murder. And you get back out, and guess what? You're still on bond for murder.
What
It's
should
not-
have happened is he should have been transferred from TDC back over to the jail, and he should have been arranged again.
But instead of, when I give his,
No, actually, because and I don't know, I claim to have a semi-legal mind, but maybe someone else knows. But because the offense took place before the offense he was sent to prison with, I don't think you can go, I'd be shocked. But I could argue if you hadn't reduced that bond,
Right.
500 grand, $500,000, it was reduced to 115,000. If you had kept that original bond, he doesn't get out, and the incident that happened last week
Wouldn't have.
wouldn't have happened, and another young person wouldn't have lost their life. I could argue that.
And you would be correct.
And you know what? The way that he killed the first woman and injured that 1-year-old, that recklessness could be used to show that this person is a danger to the community.
Oh, yeah, he definitely is. Hey, we got to wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourself and everyone else. Bye.
Peace out.